April 5th, 1909, Phoenix, Arizona. A man opens his morning newspaper, coffee still hot. The front page screams a headline that will echo for over a century. Explorations in Grand Canyon, mysteries of immense rich cavern brought to light. The story is breathtaking, impossible, and printed as fact. An explorer named G.E. Kincaid has discovered a vast underground city carved into the cliffs of the Grand Canyon. Egyptian artifacts, Buddhist statues, hieroglyphics on stone walls. The Smithsonian Institution is leading the excavation. 30 to 40 archaeologists are already on site. The cavern is so large, they estimate 50,000 people could have lived there. It is the greatest archaeological discovery in American history, a lost civilization hidden beneath one of the most famous landmarks on Earth, proof that ancient Egyptians reached the New World thousands of years before Columbus. There is only one problem. None of it was real, but that did not stop people from believing, and a century later, some still do. According to the Arizona Gazette, the cave entrance was 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall, 42 miles upriver from the newly opened El Tovar Lodge. Kincaid described it in meticulous detail. The entrance was nearly a mile underground. The main passage extended deep into the rock, branching into hundreds of chambers like spokes of a wheel. Inside, the expedition found relics unlike anything native to North America. War weapons made of copper, sharp-edged and hard as steel, vases and urns of gold, decorated with artistic precision. And then, the centerpiece, a stone idol, cross-legged, holding a lotus flower in each hand. The face was distinctly oriental. Some said it resembled Buddha, others thought it came from Tibet. But the most shocking discovery was the hieroglyphics carved into the walls throughout the cavern, Egyptian symbols, the language of pharaohs. In Arizona, Professor S.A. Jordan, the Smithsonian director overseeing the dig, concluded the residents were Egyptian, a lost colony, cut off from the old world, thriving in secret beneath the American Southwest. And there was danger. One passageway, the article warned, was not ventilated. A deadly, snaky smell emerged from it. The team's lights could not penetrate the gloom. Some thought it was snakes, others feared poisonous gas left by the ancients. Kincaid advised the public not to search for the cave. It was on government land. Trespassers would be prosecuted. The scientists wished to work unmolested. A trip would be fruitless. To understand why this story captivated America, you have to understand the era. 1909 was the golden age of pulp fiction. Magazines like Argosy filled newsstands with tales of lost treasures and ancient mysteries. Authors like H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Rice Burroughs were household names. Raiders of the Lost Ark-style adventures were everywhere, and the line between fiction and journalism was blurry at best. Newspapers regularly published sensational stories to sell copies, and readers ate them up because people wanted magic. They wanted mystery. They wanted proof that the world still held wonders. This was not the first hoax. In 1862, Mark Twain published a fake story in the Territorial Enterprise about a petrified man discovered in Nevada. He wrote it as satire, but the public believed every word. Twain later wrote in frustration that no matter how absurd he made his story, people accepted it as fact. The mania for archaeological wonders had consumed America. In 1869, a businessman named George Hull carved a 3-meter stone man and claimed to have unearthed it. The Cardiff Giant, as it became known, was displayed across the country. Even after Hull admitted it was fake, some Christians insisted it was real, a biblical giant from Genesis, and the trend continued. In the 1920s, people claimed to have discovered a city of lizard people beneath Los Angeles. Books were published about Lemurians living inside Mount Shasta in California. But beyond hoaxes, there was something deeper driving belief. America in 1909 was intoxicated with Egyptomania. The Valley of the Kings was being excavated. Celebrity archaeologists like Howard Carter and Theodore Davis toured the United States with traveling exhibitions. Ancient Egypt represented enlightenment, mysticism, a purity that modern industrial society had lost. The Romantic movement celebrated Eastern cultures as superior to corrupt Western civilization. So when the Arizona Gazette claimed Egyptians had reached the Grand Canyon, it fit perfectly into the cultural moment. It was not just believable, it was what people wanted to believe. The article tapped into every trend of the time: ancient mysteries, exotic civilizations, secret government excavations, forbidden zones. It was a masterpiece of storytelling. And it worked. For decades, people searched for the cave. They wrote letters to the Smithsonian demanding answers. Some still do. There was no G.E. Kincaid. There was no Professor S. A. Jordan. There was no cave. The entire story was fiction, invented by an anonymous writer at the Arizona Gazette. When researchers contacted the Smithsonian decades later, the institution replied clearly, "We have searched our files without finding any mention of a Professor Jordan, Kincaid, or a lost Egyptian civilization in Arizona. Not a single record exists. No expedition logs, no photographs, no artifacts, nothing." And if you needed more proof, the article itself contained errors that revealed its fiction. First, Kincaid supposedly worked for the Smithsonian for 30 years, but the article called it the Smithsonian Institute. The correct name is Smithsonian Institution. A real employee would have known that. Second, the geology does not work. Kincaid claimed the cave entrance was at river level when it was inhabited. The article placed it 1,400 feet below the canyon surface and 2,000 feet above the current river. That means the river carved 3,500 feet of rock since the cave was occupied. Geologists estimate the Grand Canyon reached its current depth about 1.2 million years ago, 6 times older than anatomically modern humans. The idea that a civilization skilled in metallurgy and architecture lived there at river level is not just improbable, it is impossible. The timeline does not exist, and yet the story survived. Today, over a century later, the legend of Kincaid's Cave lives on. Online forums debate its location. YouTube videos claim to reveal the truth the government does not want you to know. The narrative has evolved. Now, it is not just about a lost city. It is about a cover-up. The Smithsonian, they say, destroyed the evidence, suppressed the discovery to protect Orthodox history. But this theory makes no sense. If a scientist actually discovered a vast Egyptian city in the Grand Canyon, it would make their entire career. There is no incentive to hide it. It would be the most famous archaeological find in history. Still, believers point to clues. The Grand Canyon contains geographical features with Egyptian names: Isis Temple, Horus Temple, Osiris Temple. Surely that is not a coincidence. Except it is. In the early 20th century, geologist Clarence Dutton named many canyon formations after mythological figures: Egyptian, Greek, Hindu. It was a naming convention, nothing more. And then there is the Forbidden Zone argument. The government restricts access to parts of the Grand Canyon. They must be hiding something, right? Wrong. Restricted areas exist for safety and ecological preservation. Unstable terrain, endangered species habitats, sacred Native American sites, not secret Egyptian tombs. But facts do not kill legends, because legends are not about facts. They are about emotion, about the need to believe the world is more mysterious than it appears. In 1909, people were exhausted by industrialization, factories, pollution, mechanization. They longed for a time when the world felt magical. The Kincaid story gave them that. Today, we are exhausted by information overload, algorithms, screens, endless data. We long for simple answers, hidden truths, grand conspiracies that explain everything. The Kincaid story endures because it offers both a mystery and a villain, the mysterious cave, and the government hiding it. It is a perfect modern myth, and the internet ensures it will never die. Every debunking spawns 10 new believers. Every skeptical article is cited as proof of the conspiracy. The story spreads faster now than it did in 1909. Kincaid's Cave is not a place, it is an idea, and ideas are harder to kill than cities carved in stone. So, what is the truth? The truth is simple. A journalist in 1909 wrote a fictional story to sell newspapers. He was good at his job. The story worked. But the deeper truth is more interesting. The article was not just a hoax, it was a mirror, reflecting what Americans wanted to believe about themselves and their country. That they lived in a land of limitless wonders. That ancient civilizations had recognized America's greatness thousands of years before modern explorers. That mystery still existed in an increasingly mapped and measured world. And in 2025, we want the same things. We scroll through screens full of verified facts and peer-reviewed studies, and we feel nothing, because facts are cold. But a story about a secret Egyptian city hidden in the Grand Canyon? That makes us feel something. Wonder, curiosity, hope that the world is bigger than we thought. The cave does not exist. It never did. But the longing it represents is real. The hunger for mystery, for magic, for proof that not everything has been discovered. Mark Twain understood this in 1862 when he wrote his Petrified Man hoax. People do not just believe what is true. They believe what they need to be true. And sometimes, the greatest archaeological discovery is not hidden in a cave. It is hidden in ourselves. The realization that we are storytelling creatures, that we need myths as much as we need food. Kincaid's Cave will never be found because it was never lost. It lives where all great legends live, not in the Grand Canyon, but in the space between what we know and what we wish were true. And that space, unlike any cave, can never be explored.